My name is Nikki. I'm from PBS. Thank you for joining us for our Aquatics Roundtable. As you know, we do these periodically. We took some time off during the winter because it was cold. Days we're here. So now we're getting started, and I am going to turn it over to Todd and Kristen. They like to run the show for us because, let's face it, I am not an aquatics expert. So I'm going to primarily mute myself through this conversation unless I'm needed. We will assist with the chat box. And just to let you know, I did post a document that Todd will further explain, as well as a link to our aquatic resources page. I will put those up again because I know some people who had just popped in may not have seen them. So I'll post them again in the chat box. But for now, Todd and Kristen, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I see lots of new faces joining us today. Thanks so much for hopping on here. I apologize that you can't see me today. I don't have a camera on my computer, but hopefully you can hear me all right. So just wanted to say good morning before we get into our topics. Todd, do you want to say hello?
Hi, I'll tell everybody my middle daughter's joke today was I was out digging a hole in the backyard and I came across something unusual. So I went to call my ex-wife to see if she knew anything about it. Then I remembered why I was digging the hole.
Oh my. So we'll get into some announcements here before we get into some other conversations regarding, you know, pool openings, COVID updates, programming, and things like that. So Todd, I don't know if you have any information to add. I was going to mention about the Association of Aquatic Professionals virtual conference next week. It runs the 15th of February through the 18th. I
was gonna say it's a fantastic conference if you have a chance to get in there. It is all on Pacific time this year, so the sessions run from like noon to 9 p.m. or noon to 10. But one nice thing about that conference, you can actually attend the exhibit hall. They have an online exhibit hall that you can attend for free. So you can at least, if you don't want to, if you can't afford to pay the registration to do the sessions, you can at least do the exhibit hall for free and get information from vendors that way too. So good opportunity for that.
Yep, and I'm going to share the information on the exhibit hall and how to register for that with our aquatics branch with PRPS. So anybody on this call today that would like more information from us through the aquatics branch, go ahead and put your email up in the chat box and we'll get you added to the aquatics branch so that you can receive that email in particular and any other announcements we have for the branch. Another conference that's all virtual this year, of course, is our PRPS conference coming up March 9th. That'll run Tuesday and Thursday the first week, and again, Tuesday, Thursday the next week through the 12th then. Some really awesome classes. I know there's over 30 awesome workshops, lots of great workshops on aquatics. So make sure to check that out too. That's coming up. Some other aquatics things that are coming up in April for those of you that need to get certified for your pesticide or for your applicator's license. We have the Swimming Pool Management 101 on April 13th and 14th. Again, that one is for individuals not certified yet. So that's kind of a full-blown course prepping you for that exam. And then after that, on April 22nd, PRPS will be hosting a recertification workshop. That will give you your 6 core and your 4 category 24 pesticide applicator credits. So if you need those credits or need credits towards your AFO certification, those are really awesome classes to attend. Those are all available on the PRPS website. So one last announcement I wanted to talk about today, and Tim Hurd had shared this with all of us recently on the board, that there is new legislation coming up through the House of Representatives. And I'm going to go ahead and share the PRPS link on the chat box. Check that out when you have an opportunity, but it's basically proposing new legislation that will require the Pennsylvania Department of Health to keep up with our regulations, and also use the Model Aquatic Health Code as kind of the standard, and in its collaborative effort to keep up with those standards, those regulations that we all look to. It has been quite a number of years since those bathing and public bathing place regulations have been updated. So this is really exciting. It's something that PRPS wants to know more from you. Should they support this legislation? You know, I don't know if we want to have a discussion on this and maybe try to see if there is a consensus. I think the feeling was that this is really great legislation. I mean, from what I've seen initially, it really looks like it's a great opportunity for everyone to kind of come up to speed on those regulations. Any other thoughts or comments on that?
I'll just add that I had added as devil's advocate, taking, since the Pennsylvania State Bathing Code is so out of date, telling everybody they have to suddenly update everything to the Model Aquatic Health Code standards. For some facilities, it might be easy. Other facilities, it might take some work to make that leap. So I know it won't be a walk in the park for everyone if that's a big jump. Chris Biswick from Upper Dublin, or not Upper Dublin, out in Pittsburgh, had also asked that I share that if PRPS decides to make a public statement, we should include aquatic professionals, pool builders, contractors in what best practices from the Model Aquatic Health Code should or should not be included in our state bathing code. So trying to get all the stakeholders around the table on that was a good idea from Chris as well.
Yep. Did everyone get a chance to see that link, the prps.org take action link that I have there? You don't have to read through it now unless you'd like to, and then we can kind of come back to it. But let's talk about COVID restrictions. The link that Nikki shared will take you to the current PA governor's restrictions for all businesses to operate. And one update that I personally have, reaching out to my district rep with the Department of Health, I was recently told that our public operation for our swimming pool should be at a 75% capacity. And that does line up with the link to those restrictions, basically, that says, you know, any business that's operating to the public. So I did hear from another aquatics branch member that they were told 50% from their Department of Health rep. So I would encourage each of you to reach out to your area's representative, just to have, if you have questions or you want to clarify that. But Todd, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so after this was a conversation we a couple of us were emailing back and forth earlier this week. So after Kristen sent that out, I contacted my rep and he sent me what Nikki posted. And I guess it has generated a conversation among health department officials, because I brought up the fact that different people were being told different things. So he got in touch with his supervisor in Harrisburg, who agreed with the 75%. If you look at that order of the secretary, that's the most recent update from the state of Pennsylvania on, I think it's page 7, section 3 pertains to public swimming pools. And that would be us. And we are under 75% capacity as that's listed. We don't, for what he was saying, they're not considering us any of the other specialized businesses that they have listed there, like bars, restaurants, gyms, and everything else they have specified out. So.
Yeah, I think the question that I was running into is, you know, could it be seen as a kind of a large gathering or a special event, which the numbers drop really drastically when you look at the restrictions and if you consider yourself in that type of scenario. But I was happy to get more guidance and clarification from the Department of Health on that. I think it does make me wonder, you know, a private rental, do we see that differently, or should we look at that at the same, with the same restriction? At this point, I'm not certain, and we can get into who's doing what kind of this summer, but I think as we head into the summer for planning purposes, we may consider eliminating still this year any private rentals that would draw a large crowd.
Yeah, and just to go along with that, so like I said, page 7 was section 3 for capacity limitations for businesses. And then my health department person also highlighted on page 9 events and gatherings. And this was what he was saying for special events. And like Kristen said, that is a much different occupancy rate for outdoor spaces. And it's listed by, if you're normally up to 2,000 people or 2,000 or more, it is only like 15% or 10%. But that was for what he called events. But for regular operations, we could use the 75%.
Any other questions or comments on the restrictions right now for everybody? Let's kind of stay.
Can I ask you a question, Kristen?
Yeah.
So I haven't got a chance to look at that document. So maybe you or Todd can answer this. Is it 75% of capacity or you have to base it on your square footage for that capacity of your pool?
Yeah, it's 75% of your listed capacity. The square footage requirement is really only for lifeguard coverage and how many guards you need on duty, but it's 75%, whatever your fire code listed capacity is, it's 75% of that.
Thank you.
Hey, Todd and Kristen, a couple of questions in the chat box. Ryan mentioned swim meets. Would they be an event or normal operations? And Beth asked about determining capacity. And how are you determining capacity?
Yeah, so determining capacity, like Todd mentioned, you want to look at your, if you're running a public swimming pool, you should have a permit that has been, you know, you've applied for a public bathing permit with the Department of Health. If you're unsure of what your bather load is, that permit, the Department of Health should have record of what your permit, what your capacity is. You can also, if you're unsure and don't get anywhere with the Department of Health, you could check with your codes. There is a calculation, there is a way to figure out what your bather load is. So you should have it based on your permit with the Department of Health. But if for some reason you're not there yet, you don't have that number, there is a calculation. I could try to find that as we talk here throughout the next couple of minutes and post a link on how to determine that.
Yeah, your local code enforcement agency should, I know for me, I annually get a operation permit that has the capacity listed right on it from our local code agency. That's going to be different from wherever you are. And speaking of local operations, I would also add that if your municipality has a more stringent policy for COVID protocols, you have to go by that. your local municipal ordinances will override the state's ordinances. So I know for us, we do have municipal ordinances that now they have specifically said that our agency is exempt from them for operations, and we just go by the state. But check with your local policies as well. There may be additional emergency management procedures in place for COVID that would override that 75%. And then regarding swimming meets, that's a good question. I know for our pools, we decided actually last night that we're going to run all of our meets virtually. So each team will swim their meet in their home pool, and then they'll collate and gather the results together to put results out. But that would probably be a question for your health department official. I don't know how they would categorize those. In my mind, it kind of seems like an event, but if you, like I said, if you can run a virtual meet and limit the number of parents that are there watching, you should be able to stay under your COVID limits.
Hey, Todd, real quick, with swim meets, would it be worth checking into your local school districts to see how schools are running, like they're under the PIAA or something like that? Because I know a lot of the schools have gone back to holding sports, indoor track, swimming, wrestling, et cetera, et cetera. So that might be a resource, we might be able to bounce off of as well.
Yeah, PIAA does have protocols out for both regular meets and virtual meets. Pretty much they just have recommendations on how to run the meet. Most of them are running without parents. So it's really just running the kids, and they have recommendations for how to set the meet up, both, like I said, both in person and virtually. USA Swimming would be another good resource for how they recommend that you run meets. And I saw from Ryan, if you're going to run a USA meet, hopefully they have COVID recommendations included in that. But if you're running it like that, to me, that's sounding more and more like an event and less like public operations.
And Todd, just to chime in about it, it's a group that has historically done they rent our facilities for practice and then do a 1 meet a year course meet for the Mid-Atlantic region. We've yet to reach out to them yet at this point, just with where things are at. But I was curious if anyone was thinking about those types of things for this summer. Obviously, we all want to be within the guidelines. It's just something to be aware of.
Yeah.
I wanted to jump back to just general capacity here real quick. I just had a clarification question here. So when you're looking at capacity for your facility, you include the grassy or your yard area, correct? Is that correct, Todd and Kristen?
That's how I read the document, yes, was that it
Okay.
inside your gate capacity.
They are, I'm not sure that that's how ours is set up. Our bather load is what's listed on our permit. And we have a really large yard, and we also have an attached recreational area that's got a basketball court, a pavilion, shuffleboard courts. So to take account of everybody in addition to our bather load, for us, our bather load is big enough that I don't think it's going to really hurt our attendance, and we're going to stick to our bather load because we don't really have another number to go by. We don't have another occupancy number. We have our bather load.
Can I jump in there, Kristen, for a second?
Sure.
If you don't have your occupancy permit, there's a formula. The formula you figure it out with is based on your water area and your deck space. And that formula is in the ISPSC codes, which are part of the state building codes. I don't know where to find that link because I have the book, but I could get it for you. But you can calculate your own off that formula.
Yeah, Nikki is going to post a link. The Department of Health shared with me a document that should help everybody figure out what those it actually lists those measurements, how to calculate that capacity. And I think it does take into account the deck space. But Nikki, did you get that document from me yet?
No, it didn't come through yet. Sometimes it's a little slow on my end, but as soon as it does, I'll put it in the chat box and we can
Okay.
also include that in the follow-up email to everyone.
Okay. It might be quicker if I can try to post that up. I see there's an attachment place for a file there in the chat box, so I'll work on that.
Okay.
So Jeremy, I don't know if that answered your question, but you know, I think just by going by that formula, I think you're safe.
Yeah, that answered my question, so thank you both.
Sure.
If I have a second here too, I actually wanted to jump back to the Model Aquatic Health Code and the proposal that's out there to potentially adopt that. The only thing that I'm thinking of is if we're comparing the two documents, the PA Bathing Code is like 20 pages max. And if anyone has actually looked at the Model Aquatic Health Code, it's hundreds and hundreds of pages. And while I agree that the Model Aquatic Health Code should be what we are striving for, I see Todd's point that if you don't have a dedicated aquatics professional, it really will throw a major curveball to some of those smaller facilities. I don't know if it's an option to cherry pick the most important things out of that. Although, if we're being honest, the whole Model Aquatic Health Code is important. But I just think it will be there's a drastic difference between the two. So I don't know if there is some more thought that we should look into that before we give a recommendation.
Yeah, and that was kind of Chris's point about trying to see if PRPS is going to support or not support the legislation, trying to get aquatic professionals on board with making a recommendation for what or how or you know, what we want to use from the Model Aquatic Health Code or how we want to go about updating the state code, whether it's an all at once or whether we do kind of the bigger important stuff first or how that works.
Yeah, I think that'll take some time to come up with a solid position on that. And I'm sure it'll take time to hammer out the details of, you know, updating those regulations for the state. And hopefully, like you said, they get all the stakeholders and they get some people around the table to really provide some solid input on that.
And I know Chris Biswick, he's on the roundtable now. He wrote an article a few years back. I don't know, Chris, if you can unmute yourself and kind of detail a little bit what that was. I know Tim was hoping we could use that as a base to kind of start our platform for this. I don't know if you can or can't. If you can, that'd be great.
I thought he was teaching a lifeguarding instructor course this morning.
Oh, he's just listening. I saw his name on there, so I thought I'd.
Yeah.
But I
He's
can
checking
share
in.
that article with the group too, because I believe he sent that to us. So we'll share that in the follow-up.
I just wanted to mention here that Nikki and I both posted, so you could see it twice, that the bather load number of occupants is listed there. There's a PDF that you can download for further information. That was sent to me right from the Department of Health. And I think you can also find that in your manual from the state. All right. Is there anything else COVID related, restrictions? I am kind of curious if everyone is going to open up all of their amenities this summer. I know personally, I'm planning on opening our water slide diving board, and we also have an aqua climb wall. And was curious if everybody else was doing the same.
I have one question. Is anyone offering swim lessons? I see someone also commented asking that question as well. I know you talked about swim team meets, but what about swim lessons?
You got psychic. We were going to jump to swim lessons and programming after we talk facility stuff. So if I could suggest, let's wrap up facility stuff first, and then we'll jump over to swim lessons and programming after that.
Sorry, Todd.
That's okay.
We do plan, as of right now, I think we at least are going to open like we did last summer. I have a meeting at the end of the month. They wanted to hear what everybody's around the state was saying today, but at the bare minimum, we'll open like we did last summer. Like we, with all the restrictions.
So Audrey, how did you open last summer? Did you have your slide open? Do you have diving boards, other amenities?
We don't have diving boards. We do have a slide, and we did have it open. We had cleaning protocol every hour, wiping down things every 15 minutes when the guards changed location. Things down on the ground every 6 feet for the slide, so people could, stand at the cones and then move forward. Yeah, it was a process, but we made it through.
We're kind of doing the same thing. We're planning on opening everything: water slides, climbing walls, diving boards, but with cleaning protocols in place for everything. Most places are doing either 1 hour or 2 hour cleaning. Just to answer a couple other questions, we're not going to open our water fountains, but we are going to have the showers and the bathhouses open for people, just with the same signage, COVID protocols and everything in place.
So Todd, we opened last summer. We had the slide open, and like Audrey said, it just made sense to have the guards do the cleaning every hour as they rotated. In our county, it was every, I think, 2 or 4 hours at one point, or it changed, but we just kept it every hour because it was easier for us just to rotate it through. But I think everyone, like you said before, really check with your local and your county or your health department, because our health department actually had to come out and do a site visit to review our plan before they would issue us our permit. So they came through, walked through, and they were the ones who told us basically what we could open, what we couldn't open, what they were comfortable with after seeing our site. So I think you're going to find that it's going to be very different depending on who is your governing body. Like for us, our county has its own health department. I know some counties don't, they rely on the state. So, everyone really has to, get in with whoever's their governing body on that. But we plan on opening, we plan on doing lessons, probably with face shields or staff out of the pool. And we were, by all accounts, we were allowed to do it last summer towards the end. We just didn't change the gears, just ramp it up halfway through the summer. So, I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be an interesting summer, and it's really going to depend on, I hate to say it, but the politics of wherever you're located.
Did anyone open up their concessions who did open up their pool? Because that's one thing we did not have open or allow food inside of our facility. They had to go outside and eat and then come back in. So I was just curious how that worked.
We opened our concession stand. Luckily for us, it's at the end of our building, and it had it's 3 walled, and all 3 walls are garage doors basically. So we were able to open it. We took we had tables in there initially. We took them all out so you couldn't sit in and dine. So it was basically get your food, go back to your 6-foot block and square. And again, the county actually came in and inspected them for COVID protocols. So she had to come up, our vendor who runs it had to come up with a COVID plan that the county inspected and went through. So it was all takeaway food. We took all the seating away. which basically made it outdoor dining, which at that time was allowed by the state. So we didn't have any problems. I mean, and it was extra cleaning, and it was deck cleaning, and it was spacing, and it was signage, and it was cattle chutes to go, one way in, one way out. But our whole summer, it worked very well. Everybody put a lot of effort into the plan. So I won't say it can be done for everyone. It really is going to depend on your layout and what you have to work with. Ours ended up being mostly an outdoor facility with all the doors open all the time. So we were able to do that. We just removed the seating. So
we operated our concessions as well. Everything had to be individually wrapped when they handed it over. They had to wear gloves and masks the whole time. Andy and I are both in Bucks County. And we had replaced our windows. We had this big lift up wooden window up to this point with a screen, and we just so happened to replace it with glass windows this year, but they slid this way. So the Department of Health was very specific. They had to stand with their face behind the glass and reach only their hand out to serve the food or take the money. So yeah, Bucks was real strict with us, and they told us at this point, plan on operating exactly as we did last year. And in mid-April, they expect to update it. So.
We operated our concession stands. Audrey, we're right next door to you, obviously. Similar to what Andy said, we took away all of the picnic tables. And so it was really grab and go. Now I'm fortunate that we contract out the operation of our concession stand. So we had them present a plan to us. And it was a lot of what everyone is saying. I mean, they wore face masks, they wore gloves, and it's a family that operates it, and so it's a very small unit anyhow. But by all accounts, it went really well. So we were happy with everything.
Any thoughts, Jeremy, on are you going to continue to offer your picnic area, your tables? Are you going to keep them removed from your facility? And then after Jeremy, if anybody else wants to chime in on that idea.
So great question. My thought is to keep it grab and go this year. So we will not be bringing the picnic tables back. Although I know we will have discussions with the board regarding that, and we'll see. But my thought is to just have it grab and go again this year.
In Cranberry, this is Val from Cranberry. We had the concession open last year, mostly grab and go, but we did some prepared foods, but cut out some of the prepared foods to limit staff in the concession area itself. We had our tables open as well. They were pretty decently distanced as they were, and we had a constant sanitation crew cleaning them as people got up and moved. And it worked well. We didn't have any issues. Everybody obviously has to wear a hat and gloves already, and then we just added the masks, and we had plexiglass on the windows in between the cashier and the patron, because not many people wore masks on deck once they were inside the facility.
When you guys say grab and go, our concession stand is like, we cooked food, made French fries. So did you guys not do any of that type of food? You just did like pre-packaged, like you see at Sheets? Like when you say.
Now, Audrey, our concession stand's pretty extensive. I mean, she does burgers, fries, and basically, like I said, she's a contractor, so she's, we contract out the stand to her. She had to present a plan separate from on top of our plan. She had to present her COVID plan to the county. They went through her operation to see what it was, but it was like Debbie said, the pumps for condiments, it was all the prepackaged small packets. It was one, but we still, and she put everything in a bag. So it was kind of handed out with a bag, gloves, masks. And, for them, that was brutal. It was sometimes 100 degrees back in their kitchen area, but They had to do what they did, but we still maintained like the burgers, the fries, the chicken sandwiches, ice, whatever. So it can be done. It just has to, the plan has to be there, and it's just a lot of extra sanitizing and PPE and stuff like that.
Ours did either bags or those foil sheets over whatever they served.
Great. So I wanted to just try to get some answers here. There's lots of questions and answers going on in the chat box. If you haven't taken a look at the chat box recently, it looks like there's lots of answers for things. I did see a question about a sand play area, if something like that would be eligible to be open. Personally, I think of that like a park or a play area. I think posting your signage for COVID restrictions, encouraging folks to socially distance, use proper hand hygiene, I think you would probably be fine to operate that, but that's just my personal opinion. As far as counting people, that's a really good question. I know everybody kind of has done different things on how you're keeping track of how many people are in your facility, so you stay under your capacity. I saw one answer in there that there's a free app for counting. I know we used to have little clickers that would count people. I think the problem with that is it doesn't go backwards, it only counts up. So if people leave, you don't have any way to really track that. I'm going to look into this free counting app and hope that we can kind of keep a good eye on it from there. But hopefully with all of you, if you're operating at 75%, hopefully that's not a huge issue for you. If it is, I guess that's a good thing. You're having a great summer.
Kristen, if you email me, we use that free app and I can give you that information. I have to
That would be awesome,
pull it up
Valerie.
on the iPad and figure out which app it was, but
yeah, thank
Valerie,
you.
do you know if there's a way to connect that app to like a website so we could have a live count so people can like see if it's something they want to go to?
there's probably ones out there that do that, but we did not go that route. Just because we were going to try to post it to our Facebook, and when we were nearing capacity, or our website when we were nearing capacity, actually we never actually got close to nearing capacity. So
What was your capacity?
750 people, I think, is the maximum we took, and we only let residents and members in, and we never really hit those numbers. So it was
We
a slow
calculated
season.
a max of 900 this year. Most days it's not an issue, but on the big days we're worried about if we get close to capacity, how we're going to deal with that. So I thought if we could put a counter on our
Right.
website, people would be prepared as they get there.
Yeah. We use two hand counters, one for in and one for out, and then you just subtracted to get your current count throughout the day. And then we used the Remind app. People could sign up for it ahead of time, and they would get an alert. Our pool managers would send out an alert once we hit 50%, 75%, 90% of capacity. And then we also, the great thing is we also used it for like thunderstorms and things like that. We tell people when the pools were closed and when we were going to reopen for stuff. So
Remind app. Is that a free app, Todd?
it's free up to a certain level, but we got around that. We actually had 4 different accounts, so we would stay under the limit and not have to pay for any of them.
I mean, our facility's 11 acres ground wise. So we really didn't, we just boxed it all out. And if I calculated our capacity, we were about 400, and I think we only hit it 4 or 5 times throughout the summer. So we were pretty good, but we went to the, in those days, we just put a clicker at the, a staff member at the entrance, one at the exit. And, when we got close, we just held people off until enough left. And we got through good. It worked.
Yeah.
Andy, we have, you use MyRec also, don't you?
Yes.
And scan tags.
Yes.
They have a new feature on it that you put, instead of scan in and scan out, it's scan in out, and it'll give you a constant count up in the corner of your screen of how many people are on site.
Okay.
They changed that. That was just one of their brand new updates.
I'll talk to
It's
Denise
just the
about
point of
that.
sale system too.
About setting that up then. Thanks, Deb.
Yeah.
Hey, Kristen, if we could, we've had a lot of questions about swim lessons, swim team, and lifeguard classes. I don't know if maybe we could change gears here a little bit and get into programming.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about lifeguard classes. That's something we haven't discussed yet. I know here in Central PA, classes are really few and far between, but our local YMCA is still operating lifeguarding courses. I'm sure that's different across the state. Your Y might not be running classes. So just encourage you to keep checking, keep looking around, and, you know, reaching out to your contacts to make sure you're in the know, because sometimes you don't see those announcements when they're going to start holding classes again.
I'd also encourage everyone to let their Red Cross reps know. Aaron Workman for most of the state and Kate Waxler in the Philadelphia area. Let them know if you are teaching classes, so because they are getting a lot of questions about courses and who's running them and where. So if you can keep them up to date, that'll help everybody else know too.
We ran some of our own classes. Our one swim team coach is a lifeguard instructor. So, I mean, not to say we ran it for the public necessarily, but we really used it to keep our staff certified, and we kept the classes small. And I really put it on him as the Red Cross instructor to design the program to meet the right requirements. And, you know, a lot of these things are the blended learning now. So a lot of that stuff can be knocked out, you know, from home or whatever. And then he just worked it out for the drills and stuff like that to get it in. And, you know, we ran 2 classes, one in the very beginning of the summer and then another one at the end of the summer. But we did it mostly for our staff and a couple swim team kids or a couple outsiders that we knew, but we kept the classes small.
Yeah, and using that blended learning, I mean, that's 7 hours of lecture that you don't have to do. They can do that online on their own. And the only thing they're doing with you then is mostly the skills, the in-water skills, and then the CPR, first aid, and all that. So yeah, definitely recommend the blended learning, very COVID-friendly way to at least get through most of the lecture part.
And if anybody's looking for a lifeguard instructor certification or recertification, I'm offering one at Northampton, June 4th through the 6th. So just reach out to me and I can give you the information.
Deb, feel free to share that information in the chat box as well, because we can send that out in the follow-up email.
Okay, I can get the link. He has to put it on the Red Cross website yet.
Okay.
But we just got confirmation that we can have the pool that weekend. So it's Friday evening, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, June 4th through 6th. But I'll send that to you and then you can send it out.
Can I ask the group a general question? I know we're hearing a lot about individuals saying they weren't hitting capacity in 2020. We're a year removed from that, and we're further along in this pandemic, and a lot of people a year in and not going out to things and not doing things. Do you have different thoughts approaching 2021 regarding your capacities, that you may see an influx of, you know, let's just call it massive cabin fever, for lack of a better term? We're concerned about that where we're at, because we have 4 facilities that we normally run, and due to design, construction, maintenance aspects, 2 of the facilities are going to be down anyway. So now we're talking capacity restrictions and we're talking a lower number of facilities. I'm just curious what other people's thoughts are approaching the season on that cabin fever type of thing.
I can tell you our registration has more than doubled compared to previous years. So for the past 2 years, we usually have about $50,000, $60,000 in registration by the end of January. And this year we were up to about, I think, 113 $1,000. So I'm kind of feeling, I agree that people are ready to get out, and I am a little concerned about capacity.
I know lots of folks had different ways of handling this last summer. The Carlisle Community Pool, personally, we did not open, so I don't have firsthand experience. I know from what I've heard, people have gone to different ways to manage that, whether it's first come, first serve. And then, you know, you can tell folks that come when you're at capacity, they can wait until someone leaves. You could go to a reservation system. A lot of people have gone to that, where you've got to reserve maybe a 2-hour window at the pool, and it's all based on appointments. There are different ways to handle that issue, and I think you just have to figure out the best solution for you. I don't think any is right or wrong.
I agree with you, Kristen. I don't think there was a right or wrong, at least in our area, in the Bucks and Montgomery County area. We had a myriad of ways that people did it, and it seemed to work for everybody who did it for the most part. So it really depends on your community and your facility on what you're going to be able to make work. And how to gauge which one is going to work for you, that's going to be the $1 million question, I guess.
Last summer, we only opened up to residents to try, because we were worried about our numbers. And I was curious, Jeremy, are you guys going to do the same, just sticking with residents? Or are you going to open up to non-residents and dailies?
So last year we opened for just members. So you could be a resident or a non-resident and purchase a membership and come to our pool. We did not allow any daily admission though, and that's how we limited largely. It was a huge limitation on our normal attendance. Our busiest day, I think, was around 800 people. Now we factor in our yard area, and we have a massive yard area. I know Kristen and Carlisle, your yard area is large. Are just larger than that, and we were up to around like 2,500 people that we could allow in the facility. So even with 800 people and saying 50%, we were good, and we never felt overwhelmed on any days. My staff never felt overwhelmed because they were really used to getting a large influx of people via daily admission, and we didn't have it. In fact, this was the first summer since I've been here that we had 0 saves. We had no saves at all. And I attribute that largely to the fact that we didn't have daily admission. So.
And no water slide.
And the water slide. Yeah, that too.
Are you staying that way this year, Jeremy? Are you not having daily admission again?
So that's something, again, that the board is looking at. My thought process is to keep it the same that we had last year. You know, we would call the season a success with all of the COVID restrictions and just COVID hanging over the year. But my thought is to probably run this summer the same as last, but we will have discussions and we'll see. So I don't know at this point.
So real quick before we finish today, we always seem to run out of time on these, which is a good problem to have, but I did want to just share a few best practices for swim lessons and swim teams that I have seen a lot of places doing. Swim lessons, I have seen them offered with smaller class sizes and the instructors all wearing face shields. So smaller class sizes so the kids can be spread out more, and then the instructors all wearing face shields while they're teaching. Not if they're on deck, if the instructors are on deck, they're masked with a cloth mask. If they're in the water, they're using a face shield. For swim teams, I've seen a lot of coaches get more creative, whether it's 3, 4, 5 kids per lane, and then either they split the team up and do like last names A through M on Monday, Wednesday, and N through Z on Tuesday, Thursday, or something like that. And then, or they do things where half the kids are in the water and half the kids are doing dry land, and they rotate the kids in and out of the water. For the younger kids, that maybe they can only do a 25 or a 50 at a time. I had a coach they would swim a 25, climb out, do something, walk in a streamline back around to the other side and swim another 25. So again, putting that on the coaches to be more creative with what they have the kids doing around the pool area so they can get more people at practice, but not overwhelm the pool or capacity. So I don't know if anybody else had anything for swim team or swim lessons.
Our swim team's cutting back their practices to 45-minute sessions so they can have 4 or 50 minutes actually, 4 instead of 3 like they ran in the past. They may need to back it up and add a 5th, which would get them starting another hour earlier. I'm not thrilled about that idea, but if that's what they have to do, that's what they have to do. I'm just hoping that we get a lot of the swimmers back, knowing that we're only doing virtual meets. That's what our plan is for this year.
Yeah, that's what our plan was too. And we actually had a parents meeting last night, and they were all just grateful to be able to get in the water because we didn't do any swim teams all last summer. And
right.
We just want to get our kids in and, kind of get the program going again. Even if it's virtual meets, they would rather that than nothing.
Right. And we're planning on no spectators. Yep. And actually renting touch pads for timers.
Oh, that's a good idea. They also make wireless stopwatches. So if you don't want to go all the way through the touch pads, Colorado does make a system, and it's a stopwatch that connects wirelessly with the Colorado timing system. So you can still use stopwatches, but not have to write down or do times. The times automatically get pulled all the way through. So that's another option as well. Now, obviously you need somebody to run the stopwatch, which is more people on deck, but it might be a less expensive option than going all the way through with touch pads.
All right, just to switch gears here with the last 5 minutes, if anybody has any questions that they haven't had answered today, you want to pop them in the chat box, and I'll stay on the call as long as I can to see if I can help answer anything. I know we had some ideas on talking a little bit more about staffing, and I have seen some recent questions on wages and things like that. Question on, hazard type pay. I thought that was an interesting question for cashiers. I think lifeguards would be considered in that boat as well, with the possibility of close contact for rescues. But our wages personally here in Carlisle, I think we have an increase in wages for our lifeguards. We were lucky enough to bump up to $10 an hour. Right now, our front desk attendants start at $8 an hour. Anybody else?
Our desk staff is $9 an hour. Our guards are around 10. They get raises if they come back year to year, but that's ballpark.
We bumped up our starting for everybody to 10.
It almost seems like with Sheetz and Walmart and Target all offering $10 to $11 starting wages, just to get staff to apply, we have to at least be competitive.
Right.
I think we're
these guys need certifications.
10 cent fries. I mean, it's
right. They're not just offering fries with that. So it's really,
I think we're 8 for front desk or 8.50, and then in that 10 range for guards. Plus, like you said, Todd, if they come back year after year, we have an increased schedule. So to get kind of incentivize them to come back.
I saw a question on a couple questions on lifeguards and masks, and what masks is everybody using? Jeremy, I know you had really good success with the mask that you used last year in Hamden Township. I don't know if you have an opportunity that you could put a link to a mask or just talk more about that.
Yeah, so we bought everyone gator masks from Original Waterman, which is where we buy our suits from. They were good. They are comfortable. They were quick up and down. Staff liked them. So yeah, but Original Waterman is where we purchased those from, and they were really good. Everyone.
I bought those for my guards, and no one liked them. I thought the girls would like them because they could use them as a hairband too. Nope, they were a waste. We ended up using white double layer cotton masks. I got them from Amazon. Everybody got 5 and they loved them. It was, they kind of look like tidy whities, but they were great because they're like a double layer t-shirt, and they were breathable and easy to wash and dry and bleach. And, you know, I could tell if they didn't wash them because they were dirty. So that was good too. And I actually sold extras at the front desk, which people seem to like.
If you want to share the links to those masks, Jeremy and Deborah, that would be great. We can make sure that we include those in the follow-up as well.
Okay.
So I know there's a lot of other stuff that came through the chat box. Kristen and I can go through that after we get done today, and maybe keep track. There was a request maybe to put some of this stuff up as a poll so we could kind of get a better idea of what everybody's doing for things. And then whatever we weren't able to get to today, we can put on the agenda for the next Aquatics Roundtable, maybe in late March, early April. If we can tell everybody, keep your eyes open for that, and we'll try to get another one scheduled.
Yeah, and I'm just looking here, BK, your question on, you know, if minimum wage goes up here in July, is anybody planning for that? I know personally our budget year runs January 1 to December 31st. If there is any change in minimum wage, you know, we'll be budgeting for that next year. And we'll have to just consider those changes as they come, and hope that doesn't come into effect in the middle of the season. I know we're at 10 o'clock here. Like I said, I'll hang out if anybody has a pertinent question and you want to ask. Maybe Todd and Nikki, I don't know if you guys are okay for another 5 minutes, but feel free to hang out here. Thanks everybody for your comments, your questions, and your time today. Really appreciate it. I know you're all probably starting to feel the busy season coming on, even with snow outside. I know I am. I'm excited for the pool season this year, COVID or not. Of course, I didn't have a pool season last year, so I'm really missing it, but thanks everybody.
Thank you.
You can keep an eye out on your email with over the next day or two. We'll send the recording, the follow-up email with the chat box, the link, and multiple documents that were included in the chat box today. So thank you very much for joining us.
Matt, I see your question here that you're looking for a place to get your lifeguard certified close to Somerset. I'm not super familiar with where Somerset is, but I did mention Carlisle, Pennsylvania, which is really central PA. The Carlisle YMCA is hosting classes. The last time that I looked on the ARC website looking for classes that are available, I thought I saw some near the Harrisburg area and possibly even near Camp Hill. Todd, are you? Sorry.
I'm about 2 hours west of you, but I don't think that's out of the realm of getting, you know, 4 or 5. There's nothing locally anymore.
Mm-hmm.
There used to be 3 or 4 places to get lifeguard certified, so we're going to have to go outside the box a little bit.
Yeah.
Last time I ran the LGI class, I had a guy fly in from Puerto Rico.
Oh, wow.
That's
Yeah.
how hard they are. Some of those are to get.
You're closer to Pittsburgh, aren't you, Matt?
I'm right between, so I'm halfway to Pittsburgh to Harrisburg.
There is in the chat box phone number for a gentleman towards the Pittsburgh area and lifeguard classes.
Is
So
that Dan Killinger?
yeah, and he
Yeah.
shared the information for Rob Dowd, Pittsburgh Lifeguarding.
Yeah, I wrote that. That'll be
Okay,
advantageous. Thank you.
just wanted to make sure you saw that.
Sure, yep.
Yeah, good luck, Matt. I know they're
you.
few and far between.
Yeah, and Dawn just wrote, there might be a class in Latrobe.
Oh, that's perfect. That's like 45 minutes. That would be perfect.
Yeah,
Yes, thank you.
so.
Dawn, is Dawn still on here?
Looks like
I'll put it in the chat box.
Yep, it looks like Dawn's still on, Matt.
Since we're talking about lifeguard certification classes, has anyone looked at Ellis classes? Because you can do Ellis and not have to be part of their larger aquatics safety program.
I have not.
Okay.
Is that, are you heading in that direction?
I'm looking at possibilities of that. I know Ellis is offering, it's a Laguna Water Park. It's part of Del Grosso's amusement park. They're offering like 3 classes in May for just lifeguard classes, but I think they have LGI as well. But again, that's under the Ellis umbrella.
I know Ellis is considered, a qualified company regarding the PA regulations.
I did have one of my guards who did not come back last year, did take one of those. I don't know what the name of the company was, but when I checked with Red Cross, they were like, absolutely not. They're not taking what he took to renew his certification. I forget the name of it. It sounded real legit, and when you went on their website, it looked real legit, but it was definitely not. So
I think the hardest thing with Ellis is being an instructor. To be able to continue recertifying them, having an instructor that's qualified. I've looked into it. They have some pretty, and understandably so, but their qualifications and what they require take some time to get through the certification process.
StarGuard is another one that is accepted, but it's the same thing as finding instructors to remain certified once you get it is the challenge. But Deb, was that an LGI class you said you were doing in June?
LGI, research, re-entry, and full certification.
Are you willing to travel to State College to do a recert next fall?
Oh, I'm not offering it.
Oh,
I have
you're not
somebody,
doing it, it's your program.
I'm offering my pool.
We've got about
but
6 of us here. Yeah,
he may.
yeah. I may.
Dave Hutner in Cranberry does the LGI research too. So
Okay, there's about 6 of us here in State College that we have to travel to either Philadelphia or Pittsburgh every 2 years to do it. So.
Well, like I said, this guy, we had somebody from Puerto Rico. He rented an Airbnb in Richboro for the weekend to take his class. I was shocked. And Ron, who did the class, said the last class, he had somebody flying from London. I'm like, really? That's insane. But we know how hard it is to get those LGI certifications. So, and the fact that he runs it in a full weekend, and all I have to do is provide guard. So crazy. But I'll mention it, Todd. I'll when I have the link for the class.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll
send that, and I'll send you his contact information. He may come out and do it for you guys.
Yeah, I'll reach out to Dave Hutner too. I know he might be willing to, if I twist his arm hard enough.
You might have to take him out, though. You might have to take
you
him
won't
out.
have to twist that hard, Todd.
I know.
it should be an interesting summer. I mean, again, but I think a lot of us had a good run of it last year, and we at least we're going into this summer with, I guess, more knowledge on what we went into last summer. I mean, last summer was literally, who knew? I mean, you know, none of us knew what to expect, how it was going to change, what the changes were going to be. And I got to think that this year we're at least starting off a step or two ahead of where we were last year, even if we have to follow some of the same regulations.
Well, and who knows where we're going to be at with vaccinations. And I mean, it seems like everything's really up in the air. You know, once we get to a critical mass of the population being vaccinated or immune, who knows when that'll happen? It might be July, it might be December, it might be next year sometime. So.
Hey, one question I have for everybody that's still on. I was curious how, I know there was the Families First Protection Act that I believe it expired at the end of last year. But I wondered, is there anything like that this year that would basically give paid time off for our seasonal staff if they get sick or if they have to quarantine? I wondered about that. And I didn't deal with the Families First Protection Act, so I'm not really sure about it. What does anybody know?
I don't think so, because typically like summer camp staff and pool staff are usually exempt from a lot of the regulations of the part-time stuff because of the seasonal nature.
Mm-hmm.
So that they don't typically fall into that same category as quote unquote part-time for a lot of things. So, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I would think not.
I know we had a guard who had to be excluded for 2 weeks because our family had vacationed in North Carolina. When they left, it wasn't on the list of the states. And when they came back, I had to send her home. And I was not, I tried, I fought, but they said absolutely not. They're seasonal have no paid time off, and they are not gonna get, they wouldn't let me give her anything.
Kristen,
I paid her for the day that she showed up.
In Cranberry, we paid them even though they didn't fall under any type of qualification, because we found that they weren't going to be as honest with us about symptoms or exposure or traveling, especially. So we gave them their scheduled pay if they had to quarantine or.
That could backfire on you too, though, because then they could have travel.
It did, but minimally.
Right. And, you know, honestly, we told our staff, like Deb said, once those things, we told them, if you plan, I'm not going to stop you from going on a family vacation or stuff, but understand, when you come back, you're off the schedule for at least 10 days, you know, and we'll monitor it. And my staff, I mean, like I said, I was lucky. They were pretty conscientious about it. But again, you know, they'll just be told right from the beginning, if you do these certain behaviors, understand that for the safety of the rest of our staff and our patrons, you know, you're going to be off the schedule, and that's just going to be the reality of it. I mean, and will they lie? I mean, will I know that they absolutely? And I don't think any of us can do anything about that.
Yeah.
For the most part, though, I think the kids who worked last year were kids who wanted to work or needed to work.
Yeah, I did really well with my staff. My staff was phenomenal last year. I'm going to brag. I mean, they really got it. They understood what we were going through, and a lot of them understood the ramifications of not doing the right thing. I mean, they had elder family members that they were worried about and things like that. So, you know, we're just going to have to do our best as always, and hope that everyone understands what we're dealing with.
It'll be interesting to see how the vaccine plays into those travel restrictions and regulations on, you know, if you travel to a certain state, you've got to quarantine. I'm wondering, you know, does the vaccine prevent you from having to quarantine anymore when you're traveling?
If you come in with something, right, that if you have had your 2 immunizations even if you were exposed to COVID, you do not need to quarantine
So
for
you
a
don't
period
have
of 3 months after they're only giving it 3 months at this point, because
Oh
they
my.
say that's all they know that the immunization is good for.
I read something yesterday that said that you could still be a carrier too, even if you're vaccinated. So I don't
Right.
think they know.
Yeah, the vaccine's not 100%, so it would make sense that, you know, there's still some protection there for folks that have been vaccinated.
My wife works in 2 hospitals and has had her full vaccination 2-shot, and she can't get it necessarily, but she can still transmit it. So
Correct.
Yeah.
it's very odd. I mean, I don't, so she still has to, scrub down and double mask and PPE and stuff like that for what she does, but she's protected per se. So if she wants to knock me off, I mean, it'd probably be pretty easy.
I just have my lifeguard staff comes in every day and inhales some acid fumes, and that'll just make sure everything's cleaned out of their system for their shift.
That's what muriatic acid is for now. I think as long as like Todd and Chris, if we keep doing these things and we keep everybody up to date with what everybody's hearing, just knowing that it will be different no matter where you are. While we were talking, I actually emailed my inspector from Bucks County and just threw out there, hey, what are you hearing? And I'll see what she gets back to me. But again, I could send it out to everybody else. It might not even matter because
Right.
for Deb and I, it'll be good. But anyone not in Bucks County, our
It's
2 counties,
different.
Bucks and Montgomery, are so close and literally on 2 opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to everything. So it's hard.
Andy,
Yeah.
just out of curiosity for just because so I'm in Cumberland County, we get inspected by the state if they come out that summer. And I say if they come out because
They don't have enough people.
exactly. I mean, we've been inspected once in the past 6 years, I believe, which was 2019.
Wow.
But so how often do you get inspected? Is it once a season? Or just out of curiosity?
We got inspected. Now, last year was obviously different.
Yeah.
Like I said, we had our county rep came out to issue us our permit to open. So that was basically our inspection. And she's inspected our pool umpteen year. I mean, she always does it. She knows the facility. She knows my maintenance staff. She knows what they do, how they do it, and basically told me, unless I get some reason to come back, a couple things we had to tweak before we opened. And she said, listen, I know you're going to do it. So I'm good. And unless she had some reason to come back, I don't think she had the time to come back, to be honest with you. But you're rolling the dice. I mean, if they do come back and you're out of schedule, they're going to whap you.
Yeah.
Jeremy, in 10 years of running the Cranberry Water Park, I've been inspected once on the pool side. The concession stand, however, is inspected every year by the Department of Agriculture. We don't have a Department of Health in Butler County. So the Department of Ag comes out for the concession stand every year. That's expected. But they showed up last year for the pool, and we were all like, what do we have to do? Because I've run the
Get
pool
your
for 10
shepherd
years,
hook
and
out.
they came when we did our renovations.
Right.
To reissue a bather coat permit because we renovated, but
Yeah.
I've never had anybody show up until last year. And I think it's because we were one of the only pools in the area open, so they had time to come see us.
Places to go, and you were open, so it was easy.
So we'll see what happens moving forward, if they're going to start seeing us every year now or not. But yeah, we were all like,
Yeah.
crap. Hi,
Yeah.
what do we do?
We had to submit a written report of our whole entire plan for opening that had to be reviewed, not approved, but
Yes.
accepted by the Department of Health. Then they came out and went through step by step, right, Andy? Every
Yeah.
single step to see that we had everything marked and, painting squares on the grass every time we had a heavy rain or the lawn got cut. They wanted to see every single thing before we were allowed to open.
And I think I shared our plan. I mean, I know I shared our plan to the Bucks County Pool Operators Group. I may have shared it on this aquatics group last year. I mean, ours was 12 pages long.
Yep.
Now, whether that was overkill, I don't know, but it was staff, it was my pool managers, it was me, it was our staff, it was our pool advisory, you know, we put a lot into it. And again, like Deb said, we had to submit that in writing to the county. Then they came out with that in their hand and like wanted to see how that looked for in real time, like what, you know, what that was. And then they issued us our bathing permit.
Yeah.
So they held it. That's how they controlled a lot of ours. And again, too, not a lot of pools opened in Bucks County. So I'm sure they had the time to do it.
But every year I do get a physical inspection. Usually not till August though, at which point it's kind of like, you know,
Yeah, we
okay.
get once a year.
Our inspector showed up after we had closed for the season. And I was like, well, you're welcome to walk through. I mean,
Were your chlorine levels up to par?
they were actually, but
Yeah. Sometimes it almost makes you laugh. Like, really?
yeah, he came through in mid-September and he's like, I'm like Jeremy, this is the first inspection I'd had in like 3 or 4 years,
Wow.
just because they finally got around to us.
Right.
Or they come real early and they're like, well, I don't see your AED out. And I don't see, yeah, I know, we didn't put it out yet.
Yeah.
We're not gonna keep here for another month, so it's still back in my office.
Yeah.
Right. God. So,
But hey, I got to run to another meeting.
I think it was good today. Thanks, Todd.
Good
Thank
to see
you.
you guys.
Thanks,
you.
Sandy.
Yep.
Thanks, everybody.
Everyone.
As I say, let's talk again about late March, early April, another roundtable.
Yeah.
Hopefully more
If we could do like survey questions at that point.
Yeah,
Who's running swim lessons? Who's running a swim team? Are you doing your meets virtual? Are you having spectators? You know, all those questions that everybody was bringing up. It'd be easier than everybody trying to run into the chat box, and then we can kind of see, okay, well, this is what everybody's doing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's going to depend on the areas where we all are, but at least it's a better gauge of, you know, yeah, well, when people start saying, why are you doing virtual? They are doing in-person meets. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
Majority across the state are doing virtual, and that's what we're doing. So,
It would be nice to see those percentages. That would be good to see. Yeah.
yeah.
I hope people with like their boards of supervisors and commissioners too, when they start going, well, nobody's doing this, and we can say, well, here is the numbers. Is that,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
across the state or across our county or in our area, the majority are doing X or Y or Z or something. So that could be helpful for everybody as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. See you guys.
Yep.
All right,
Thank
guys.
you.